Now that we've completed the first aspect of writing a business communication, we're going to move into another skill set, which involves using an active or a passive voice in your communications. And using the active voice provides the reader with a much clearer answer to the problems that are at hand, and it instills confidence because an active voice basically says that there is an object or a person that is going to do a specific act for an intended outcome. So you're just going straight down the list, and it's as active as it can be. John, or this company is going to do this, and therefore, when that's resolved, then we will go do this. And at the end of the day, we will have this product as stated herein. So you're giving a cause and effect, and you're doing it actively instead of saying, and if so-and-so does at this point do this. It takes all that wishy-washy out of it, that passive, not real directed tone of the communication that disappears, and that makes it easier to avoid misunderstandings and all that stuff. And using the active role or active voice really establishes your role as a problem solver. And let's face it, that's what you are as a project engineer. And your role is to solve problems. And using the active voice is going to make that very apparent that you are a problem solver. Whereas if you're using a passive voice, you're not really saying you're solving anything. You're just kind of throwing out ideas and a lot of what ifs and perhaps and in the events. So really stay towards that active voice, and you're going to see your role and your reputation increase as being the guy that comes in and makes things happen. And using the active voice also provides the reader with a much better understanding of the issues at hand. And it ensures that the solutions that you have proposed make sense to your reader. You're not kind of hiding the solutions, you're stating them very actively. So it really does make the reader understand the issues because they're clearly stated and they're actively stated in lieu of that passive tone of voice that doesn't really resolve anything but throws a bunch of ideas out there. So throughout the discussion board, we will study how to use your active and passive voice in your communications. So there's a lot of classroom materials in this module, and it's going to take you a while. Active and passive voice just doesn't come real naturally to people, but once you get it, it's something you'll never forget. It just becomes part of who you are. So although we are addressing written communication in this module, the principles are the same as we have discussed for all types of communication, be it verbal, be it electronic, be it written, even nonverbal in a way can be active or passive as well. So just understand that these are all very indicative of the subject that we're talking about, which is communication. And the understanding of an active and passive communication allows you to use a much better sense of communication that doesn't single out actions or individual participants when the facts do not warrant such a response. So in lieu of kind of laying blame without stating it, you're being more honest, not only to yourself but to your peers. And it really is the essence of proper business tact with your fellow team members and peers. So your reputation becomes, the one thing about Joe is he's honest and he stays true to the facts. So he's not going to single you out. You get a sense as you're being an employee to Joe that he's not going to single you out. However, if you do make a mistake, you're going to know of it. And it's an active thing, and there's no harm and there's no foul or malintent, shall we say, because that's just the way Joe is. Joe speaks honestly, and actively. So he's not looking for problems that don't exist. He's only looking to solve the problems that do exist. So it's very important as a leader for you to learn that active and passive voice as you become more and more in that leadership realm. So now that we've gotten through the first two elements of communication, we're going to go ahead and walk through the classroom materials for the discussion board. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of stuff on active and passive voice in here. And so it's just a matter of you just working through it as much as you can. And we've included a little assignment at the end of this discussion board, which is intended to give you some hands-on experience in the first two steps of successful written communication. So with that said, we'll go ahead and start looking at all the materials that are in the discussion board for Module 3.